Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time. This moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
Hello. We are back. We're back. We're not all smiley faces, but we're back anyway. And two of us made it. A lot of injuries in the loaded camp over the weekend, but we made it, Pete. We made it this far. That's the main thing. But how's everything with you?
All good. Yeah, just saying before we went live. Been a busy one this weekend. Out for my mate's birthday, straight after the game Saturday. Great to catch up with some of the boys. And then, my daughter was playing football this morning, and then I've literally marked all afternoon until about 10 minutes ago. And I've got a couple of more bits to do after that. So it's just been a day of work. I have just shut myself off from the world, and probably for a good reason.
Yeah.
I was going to get into that.
How's my weekend? Yeah, my day today was grand. Yeah. I've got a long weekend because they've invented a new bank holiday in Ireland. I love it.
Lucky,
keep that coming. So yeah, we have tomorrow is I think it's like a St. Bridget's Day, a bank holiday thing that they've got going on. I don't know. I'm just taking it anyway. Take what we're given. So delighted with that. So an extra day off, a shorter week, so all good. But let's get into this game. Right, I'll do a very quick run through because some people like the run throughs, some people hate the run throughs. So we'll just kind of refresh this because it did happen. Sorry?
It's tradition.
It's tradition, yeah. Right. We started off. And actually, first of all, we look at that. We look at the team news. Team news was as follows. I suppose the big question mark was who was going to start instead of Bruno, and ASM came in, and Joelinton pushed back into midfield. Any real surprise with you there? I suppose the other big one was actually that Isaac was ruled out through concussion. It was like, will he, won't he? Gordon was on the bench, no Ashby on the bench. Yeah, and Anton that caught your eye on the team news, Pete, or is that what you're expecting?
In terms of the starting lineup, it was what I expected. I have to be honest. I think Maxi needed to start the game, having done well in his cameos. The big surprise to me was Isaac. I genuinely thought he would play, but clearly the concussion protocols is that if you come off for it, even if it's a slight concussion, it's that you still have to follow the protocols of 7 days or so. So he'll be back for Bournemouth. Not worried, but yeah, it was a bit of a blow in my opinion.
And it could have been a totally different game if we had Bruno. We knew we were going to be missing him. We were going to miss him for 2 more games. And Isaac either off the bench, just something to mix it up. It could have been. I think we would have won the game if they had been available to us. But we have to go what we had. Then this is the team news for West Ham. Strong side out for West Ham, who are battling relegation, and they did put up a great fight on the night in St. James's Park. Right, let's get into it. First minute. Yes, Willock. The Willock had a goal ruled for put the ball in the net, but Miggy's ball was over the line when he crossed it back into him. When I was watching it live, I thought yeah, that it did look like that, like he touched that the ball went over the line. I think it was Texter Martin at the time because he wasn't seeing it live, and even though they celebrated like it was if it was going to stand, but no arguments there. Really, it was definitely over the line.
Yeah, 100%. Like, or no matter how frustrated we were,
we're not getting away with that.
Yeah, but great bit of play. Got to be honest. Nice
yeah, it was
to begin with. Yeah, just a shame, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And of course, it was a wake-up call to West Ham, but they didn't wake up. They still said hit snooze again, because about 30 seconds later, Longstaff, a lovely through ball. Wilson pointed exactly where he wanted it, and Wilson puts the ball in the net. Here we go for Wilson, where I have him here somewhere. There he is, scoring his goal. And the celebration then to match. But yeah, carry on. Next talking about point, I suppose, was 15 minutes. Botman takes the ball to the face, but he was going to carry on. 23 minutes, Shar nearly flicked the ball over the keeper. It was just wide. Then 31 minutes, Paqueta scores from a corner over. Trippier marking on pretty much on the post, and Paqueta just broke free of him and put the ball through Trippier's legs and through Pope's legs. 1-1. We'll go to you there on that, Pete. And then thoughts on that goal. A great little header in, a touch in from, I think it was a Rice corner. Was it Aguard? They got a touch. You did.
It was either Edward or Rice. I can't remember. No, it wasn't. It was Rice took the corner. I think it might have been Edward. We'll talk about him later on. But I don't know if you guys saw it, but the one thing I noticed straight away is as that ball's been flicked on, it almost looks like Dan Burns like ducking to get out the way of the ball. And I just thought, you're 6'5". If you stand up tall there, that ball never reaches Lucas Paqueta, in my opinion. So I just thought that was quite poor defending, if I'm honest. It was completely poorly defended, the whole movement of how that goal came about. But that in particular was quite poor defending for me. Could have stood tall and dealt with that, however it came. But yeah, like I say, it is what it is. Finish at the back post. You could argue Trippier was marking him. Trippier goes back to his post, which normally is his job as soon as the ball comes in. But yeah, look, it was a tidy finish, and to be honest, more than they deserved with the possession and the way they penned us back. So it had always been coming.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I suppose that really kind of took us to the half time. It was an excellent start from Newcastle, really, and to start the game. But then West Ham kind of grew more into it as the game went on. Rice got some great interceptions and kind of starting moves as well in midfield for West Ham. Into the second half, and JSM got a yellow card for a dive and a little cheeky smile after that as well. Then on the 68th minute, off comes ASM. And on comes Gordon. So Flash got his introduction, and it kind of did need some kind of a change at that stage. The crowd, that kind of geared up the crowd as well, and he got a great reception when he came on, which is what we want to see. He was getting a great reception actually warming up as well. But 75 minutes, then a Gordon through ball through to Wilson, and you thought, here we go. Wilson here is on. This is going to be the winner for us. But an absolutely amazing tackle by Aguard. Wilson should have probably got the shot up, but it was just amazing defending. Do you want to touch on Aguard here, Pete? Is this where you want to go talk about him, or do you want to leave it till the end?
No, I don't mind talking about him. I thought Aguard was outstanding yesterday. I thought he was absolutely class. There's a reason why he was a backup solution option for Sven Botman. I thought he was terrific. So good. Not just because of that tackle, I already had that mindset of what I'd watched of him even before that tackle. That tackle just solidified it for me. I won't go as far as what some of the West Ham fans are saying. He's world class, he's a world beater, all the rest of it. Not quite yet, but he's certainly showed his capabilities. Really calm and composed on the ball. Really settled their defence down, because a lot of their defenders were flapping for most of the game, but he just had a little bit of calm about him, and you can tell. They're paying 30+ million for him. It's definitely, it'll be well worth it if they can get a run of games out of him. Very, very good. So yeah, and an outstanding tackle. But the question I'm going to come back to you with regards to that, Daz, is should he have been allowed to get that tackle in?
Should he be allowed to? As in, should Wilson have got the shot off before that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. This is where I said if Isak was on the bench, I don't think that was on the 75th minute. I don't think Wilson would still be on the pitch then, because Wilson is he's just off the pace at that stage. I think you're getting 60 minutes out of Wilson, you're doing well. Yeah, and I think that's where it is good to switch him up. Either Isak plays 60 minutes and Wilson come on then, or vice versa, if we're going with that formation. But yeah, he was about to pull the trigger. It was just such a great tackle though as well. It's a bit of both piece. I thought he could have got to it sooner or something like that, but it was later in the game, and Wilson, yeah, he was just out of juice, I think.
Yeah, possibly. No, it's a fair point. I thought it almost felt like he was trying to draw a foul out of him. He was trying to draw to win the penalty. That was my initial thought, but in the end, it was just kind of like it was a good tackle from Edouard. Personally, I didn't think he needed to take it as close as he did. He could have hit it from the edge of the area and just got a shot away a few seconds earlier. He'd have scored it. He's a great finisher in those positions. I'm confident he'd have put it away, but I was just surprised that he just allowed him to get back in, or allowed Edouard to get back in. Maybe he didn't anticipate how quick he is, because he'd already beat him once for the first goal, and that was an outstanding finish on his left foot. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, and a few people in the chat obviously got their own opinions on that as well. But yeah, it was an interesting one.
He did say in the interview afterwards that he probably should have taken a wider angle or something like that. He was saying so. He on reflection, he was changing his mind on what he did. I thought he did the right thing. It was a in fairness, it was just a brilliant tackle. On another day, if it was earlier in the match, he finished it. He was just a bit out of juice, I think, at that stage. But then on the 80 minutes, Miggy and Willock come off, Murphy and Elliot Anderson come on. On the 81st minute, Wilson had a header straight at the keeper. Again, I think he said that he probably jumped too soon at that stage. But in summary, really. A bit of a hangover from the cup semi-final and getting through to Wembley midweek. Definitely missing Bruno and Isak. I think a draw was a fair result though. And West Ham, fair play to West Ham, and they're battling relegation. They put up in a great fight, and they were more like the West Ham that we thought we'd see at the start of the season. And that we thought we'd be kind of on an even par with them, and they're kind of catching up, and we're slightly regressing a bit, and I suppose we're going to get into that as well. But yeah, I thought draw, fair result, full time, 1-1.
Yeah, no. Look, it was for me. It was a fair result. I think both teams deserved a point for the way in which they played in certain pockets of the game. It's very clear that we dominated possession for most of it. I think we had something like 63 possession overall. We had more chances on goal, so we did all the right things. But if you're at home and you can't break a team down, then really you don't deserve to take 3 points home. It's as simple as that. And let's be honest. And look, if you disagree, that's absolutely fine. I'll get your thoughts on this, Daz, as well. Like, West Ham showed yesterday that they're not a team that should be fighting relegation. They've got too many good players in their team. Too many.
I agree. I agree. No way they're getting relegated. There's a few teams there you can rule out that are getting nowhere near relegation. Okay, they've had a bad start to the season, bad first half of the season,
Yeah.
but they're not going to be nowhere. And when we look at the league table, we can rule those out if you want. Leicester as well, of course, had a great win yesterday away from home. Wolves had a great win against Liverpool. But yeah, I agree. Yep. Draw a fair result. Of course we were to play them away from home earlier in the season, but we have that to come as well. So if we have a full strength team, I think we could do more damage against them. But we have to settle for what we got.
Well, what do you make of what Foxy put in? And it was he's not the only one to make it. He's not the only one to make a point about the 2 yellow cards. David Cook was also mentioned about if he gets another 2 yellow cards, he misses the final, the cup final. But he's just put on there, what a shocking dive from Joelinton. Probably missed the cup final now with 2 league games still to play.
Yeah.
A great performer, but zero discipline. What do you make of that with Joelinton? We'll get into his score later on, I'm sure, when you go to it in a second. But just what did you make of that in isolation, that particular incident?
Yeah, it was a blatant dive. Yeah, look, you have to give a yellow card when it is a dive. So I think if he got another yellow card in the next game, then I wouldn't play him in the next game because we need him for the cup final then. So and I know we need him against Liverpool as well, but still, yeah, it'd be too risky. Then you need him for the cup final. I would actually rest him, and I know we will be missing Bruno as well, but that all leads back, Pete, to our semi-final second leg match day live, where we're celebrating we're gotten to Wembley, but also we were like, shit, no Bruno for 3 games. Shit, we're not after bringing in a backup, but letting Shelby go. So we could see that there was going to be trouble ahead, and because these games that we have, that there's no easy game. Even the Bournemouth game, Bournemouth did well against Brighton. I was watching the highlights of match of the day this morning, and they did well. Brighton are class, and they stuck it to it, and then they have 1 or 2 new signings as well. So it's not, and we're away from home going to Bournemouth next Saturday, so not going to be easy with no Bruno, but hopefully Isak will make the kind of difference there, and maybe even Gordon from the start, and I'm sure we'll get into that topic as well. But yeah, he can't get another 2 yellow cards. He can't miss the cup final.
No, it's true. I mean, look, for me, the most important game right now is the Bournemouth game. And look, I'm sure you're going to put the league table upon it in a second. We're in it now. We're in the thick of this right now. We've been sitting comfortable for a long part of the season, where we've been 5, 6, 8, 9 points ahead of those potential rivals, dwindled down to 5, then to 3, and now we're a point ahead of Tottenham, as you can see. Albeit we've got a game in hand, but we are now in the thick of it. You've got Brighton that are coming up behind us, 6 points behind. They've got a game in hand, and that could be 3 points. Brentford are putting results together. Fulham are there or thereabouts. You've got teams that are putting results together week in, week out, and we're not at the moment, not the way in which we want to. So we are right in the thick of it now. And the reason why I wouldn't drop Joelinton for Bournemouth is because we need to win the Bournemouth game. We need 100%. It's massive. It's another massive game. So for me, Joelinton has to play. Now, do you strategically, hopefully, ensure that you're winning comfortably by 60, 65, even 70 minutes and bring him off? That would be the ideal situation, but
You'd want to be 2-0 up there, Pete, before you bring him out. I wouldn't trust being 1-0 up to take him off, and I definitely start him against Brentford. But what I was thinking is if he got a yellow card, against Bournemouth, if he got another yellow card against Bournemouth early in the game before he had the chance to take him off, then I'd consider rest him for the Liverpool game, because there's that danger then he can't miss the cup final. But no, I agree with you. The most important game is this next game against Bournemouth, and Eddie Howe hasn't had a great record against Bournemouth. He's got a lot of draws against them. So and we're going to them as well. So yeah, it shall be interesting. But and when it comes to the league table, I'm just looking at the top six now. I'm not even considering Brentford. It's just the top six in the battle. We have cemented our place for me. I think we've cemented our place in the top six. Brighton are on fire though, and they have a game in hand on us. And I'm not even looking at anyone else below that. I don't think that anyone else below that would catch us. If anyone else below that catches us, it doesn't matter anyway. we fuck things up completely. So. And yeah, the danger, as he pinpointed, is Spurs, with Spurs so getting their victory today, Harry Kane getting his goal, City letting us down, and also because I was kind of ruling out, let Arsenal and Man City battle away. Don't care what they do. I don't think we'll pass City in any way, shape, or form either. It's for me, it's from third to sixth. It's that for two places, from Man United, us, Spurs, and Brighton. And battling to get those two last Champions League spots. That's the league for me. And it's watching each game each week now how each of those perform. Is not only your own game, but just watching how the results that they pick up as well.
No, I think that's a fair point. I don't rule out Chelsea, and I don't look. They're 10 points behind us. I don't rule out Chelsea, and the reason being is that they've invested heavily, and those teams that are normally used to being at the top always tend to put some sort of run together. Yeah. And let's be honest, I'm not going to talk too much on this, is that Chelsea have to get Champions League football this season because of the amount of money they've invested. You can't invest nearly 700 million and not get Champions League football. They can't, which is why I think they put all their eggs in one basket. But that's another separate conversation. So I do believe that Chelsea will have a run at some point where they'll put a few results together. So we do need to be mindful for them. But yeah, I think you're right in terms of maybe discarding Brentford. Brentford are up and down in their performances, as are Fulham. So you could probably discard those two. But Brighton just seem to be, albeit they've got a loss on their record just there, but they just seem to put results together. I thought they'd draw against Southampton and they nick it late on. They've just got that knack of putting results together. Beat Liverpool comfortably. They're on the march right now. And our form looks shaky at best. One win in five. Four draws. It doesn't. At the beginning of January, it looked okay because it was the likes of Arsenal that we were drawing against. But these were winnable games, January into February, and it's not gone the way I expected. So we are right in the thick of this now. But that's what you're thinking.
I disagree with you in some sense, Pete, because I completely rule out Chelsea and Liverpool because the reason being is that Chelsea we're 10 points ahead of Chelsea. We have to drop 10 points for Chelsea to pass us out. Tottenham have to drop 9 points. I know they've played a game more for Chelsea to pass them out. So we both and Man United, if you want to put Man United in it, they have to drop 12 points for Chelsea to pass them out. There's no way that all three of us there are going to drop that many points, and Chelsea still haven't hit the ground running. They're drawing with Fulham there on Friday night, so they need to get their act together as well. So that's why I'm not so worried about Chelsea. And I think even when I think it's coming up pretty soon, Spurs play Chelsea. I think we'll be shouting for Spurs. For Chelsea in that game. Or a draw or shouting for Chelsea because it's just whatever's closest to us at this point in time. But it's going to be go down to the wire here. As long as we're still in touching distance and still hovering around that fourth spot or third spot or whatever my case may be, we have a chance. I think we do. We play Chelsea close towards the end of the season as well.
We do.
It is very interesting though, and it's not going to be. We knew it was going to change along the way, but it's a right all battle now right till the end of the season.
First time I've seen this comment come up from anybody. PDK, we won't make Champions League this season. Yeah, I think with the fact that we're only 1 point behind or 1 point in front of Tottenham, I think it does put doubts in people's minds. I still believe we are right in the thick of it for the Champions League race. I'll say that. Because although Tottenham won today against Man City, which they normally do at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I don't think Man City even won a goal. Scored a goal, yet let alone win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You know, Tottenham will have their drop-offs. Romero's suspended now. They play West Ham next at West Ham's ground. Can West Ham pull up and cause an upset there? I don't know. You know, it could change very, very quickly. You know, we could win at Bournemouth. They could lose against West Ham, and then it looks rosy again, and everyone's saying we're definitely going to get Champions League. So it's one of those. But it's interesting that you put that out there, PDK. I don't think you'll probably be the only one. Just to squash this. The Casemiro red against Palace, he still makes the final because they have 3 games still before the final. So just to squash that, but not Newcastle related, but Casemiro deserved the red for you.
I'll come back to Casemiro in a second, but I want to go back to PDK's comment there. And PDK, I love the way you added your own spanner. Love that. Nice something you were saying that on Twitter as well. But yeah, look, if you also look at it, Tottenham have played the game more than us. We have a better goal difference. We have 22. So if it came down to that goal difference would nearly count for a point the last day of the season. But so yeah, it's not looking as rosy, and it's going to twist and turn. It's going to be that bit of a roller coaster, and that's why any little injury or niggles or anything a slip up is going to cost. But it also makes all the games interesting now between now and the end of the season. So you're watching all the games, and that linking into the Casemiro red. I was celebrating it first that I thought he might miss the cup final, but then that was clarified straight away. But then I was thinking, hey, at least he's going to be missing for a couple of their league games as well. So maybe we could overtake them again. So it is all to play for, and you're kind of celebrating an injury or a red card or something like that that goes against our rivals now at this stage. So fun.
Yeah, and just going back to that point, I'm not going to put it on the screen, but the Casemiro red, do you agree with that? Do you think it?
Oh yeah, I never answered the question. Sorry, Pete. Yeah, I do. Why not? A Man United player getting a red card, you'll never hear me complaining about that. But yeah, he did try and choke him, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he thought he was in the UFC, trying to beat down Will Hughes, bless him. But yeah, 100% a red card, no question about that. And a couple of my mates that I was with last night that are season ticket holders at Man U, they were at the game and they didn't see it very well, but when they saw it, when I showed them a bid, they were like, yes, it's a red card, you can't argue it. Just like you can't argue the Bruno one on Tuesday. But Alan Thompson comes up with, Pete Daz, we're going through a slump in results. Daz, if this is our slump, would you complain if this was considered our slump?
No, because we're still getting points, and we scoring the odd goal, not as many as we'd like. But if this is our slump, and then we come out of that and get going again, if Miggy comes back and starts firing, if ASM can. We're going to get onto ASM. I know earlier. Can find something. Is able to do the defensive work and get his attacking work back to his maverick status back. I think we could get some. Gordon coming in is a big boost, and he looks lively. I'd probably start him the next day. So yeah, we can get out of this slump. Great to see Wilson score a goal. The drought is over. Before that, he hadn't scored in the league anyway since the Villa game in October. So yeah, Bournemouth is probably the perfect game to try and get out of that now and get a win, and that would take us into the Liverpool game.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Some of these conversations in the chat are really, really interesting. I mean, you got Alan Thompson saying unbeaten in 16. We are, which is outstanding. We're the team that have lost the least amount of games this season after Arsenal got beat against Everton and Goodison. So, yeah, I mean, although we've drew 10, which is not ideal, but it's still 10 points on the board because we haven't lost. And so it's not the worst thing in the world. But interesting from Life Goals. Welcome Life Goals into the chat. Brighton are probably the better side, to be fair, compared to Newcastle. And he goes on and adds with that Casido equals Bruno Mitoma, better than any Newcastle winger.
There are a lot of similarities, and there always has been for the last while. You know, if you think about, we both came up that season in the Championship with Rafa as manager. On the last day of the season, goal. Remember, Brighton had the scarves printed, champions. I know. Emil has one of those scarves actually. I saw him with a picture of it before, but yeah, and then they had Potter ball, and we were playing Bruce ball. They had Potter ball, and they were beating us 3-0 every time we turned up, or they turned up to us. So we've done well to get to match them really, and they're if don't forget, like they've had the likes of Dan Ashford in there for the last number of years, and he's picked up players for nothing and turn them into, they've been turned into world beaters. So whoever wants to go buy, I saw in the motor there, Arsenal are linked to the one to pay 35 million for him, as well as Casado. They want to. The 70 million was rejected in January, so clubs will be in for more than that come the summer. So yeah, they're a decent side. It'll be a great battle when we do play them, but I wouldn't say that they're better than us yet.
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, they've played some good stuff, but so have we. They've had some dips as well, and to be fair, Charlie makes a good point. Charlie Hotspur, Brighton will have another dip in form. They always do. You know, they've had their dips earlier on in the season when we were flying high. We're having our dip now, and you made a really good point, Das, and I agree with it, is that we're still picking up points. We are still picking up points, even though we're not playing well. And there will be an upturn to our form. There's no doubt about it. Especially now, all the cup and extra games in the cup are out the way. We've only got one additional game, and that's the cup final, because we've earned the right to be there. All the other games are going to be week in, week out, unless we've got the extra game, the game that we owe back against West Ham away. That'll be a midweek game. But one midweek over the course of the season, we are going to get form at some point.
We'll have the Brighton game as well that's going to be rescheduled. But the other thing, Pete, is that if you look at those teams above us, they're all in Europe. As long as West Ham, they're in Europe too. So they that's when they were all in Europe. This earlier in the season, we were putting the results together week on week in the Premier League. So there's nothing to say that get through these next two games, have the cup final. Let's enjoy that, and then get back our heads back in the game to try and get the top four. As in fourth spot would be perfect. It doesn't matter about anything else after that. But I suppose focus first of all on Bournemouth, and let's try and get back to winning ways.
Definitely. Look, that's what you got for us next. There's so many comments I can just keep going through the chat, but I know.
Let's remove the league table. We might might go back to it and look at the bottom of the league table towards the end, people. Let's go to our rating next maybe, and we can fly through this. Right, let's go for it. Nick Pope, I've given him a 7. I'm not blaming him for the goal, really. I'm not really blaming anyone. I know you pinpointed Dan Burn for it. Fuck it, it was unlucky, really. There was similarities actually with the goal, and I know they played it at the end of the live game with the one at Spurs. And Trippier was marking Harry Kane in that one, and this one Trippier was marking Paqueta. But I'm giving Popey a 7.
Yeah, I was 7.5 for me. There's not really too much he could have done for the goal, but other than that, I thought he handled himself really well. I thought he used the ball well. No real concern about Nick Pope. Nick Pope's playing very well at the moment. I'm very, very comfortable with him being between the sticks. So yeah, 7.5. Lucky really to not get another clean sheet, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and he's unfortunately his record in the league is broken, but hey, he can start another one. Right, Trips. I thought Trips again was class. It just everything goes through him. He's just so pivotal to us. Along with Bruno, everything going through him in the middle. But when Bruno's not there, he kind of even highlights it a bit more. Okay, I know he was marking Paqueta for the goal. It was just Paqueta got very lucky. We went through two players' legs for that to win. I'm giving Trippier an 8.25.
Jesus, 8.25.
Yeah,
he's going for it tonight. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I was going to give him an 8. I actually thought he was better defensively yesterday than he was going forward. I felt on the ball he wasn't as strong as always, particularly in the first half, giving the ball away really cheaply, which was a common theme across the team, by the way. It wasn't just Trippier.
Yeah.
But I thought, yeah, he could have been better with the ball. Deliveries, I might sound harsh here. Please tell me if I'm wrong. If you don't agree, that's absolutely fine. But I think his deliveries need to be better. Not just from free kicks, but corners. And we get a lot of free kicks, probably just inside the attacking, the opposition's half, where we kind of loft them into areas. We get a lot of set pieces in games. You know, we almost play for set pieces, but we don't maximize them. And I think we need to work on something. We need to work on something because for the amount of set pieces we get, we don't score enough goals. And it baffles me because you look at our players and they're all 6 foot plus. Burn 6'5". You got Botman probably 6'3". You got Shaw who's 6'1", maybe 6'2". You got Joelinton in the 6 foots. Pope's a tall lad, but thinking from attacking areas, Wilson can be decent in the air. He's pushing close to 6 foot. We've got players who are physically dominating on the pitch, and we don't maximize them. And I don't understand why it hasn't happened.
It's a good point, Pete, because you would think with the likes of I'm picking out Botman and Byrne especially, you would think that we'd get more of a head on and score more from headers from balls in the box, but yeah, I don't know. We'll move on. Let's go to Shar. For me, Shar, I think Shar needs to get hit in the head more often. He plays better when he gets hit in the head, and he's a risk of concussion, and he always seems to play better. But I'm giving him a 7.5 for me, Shar.
Yeah, no. Shaw, 7.5. I'll go with. I actually thought. I mean, defensively, Shaw's always good. I thought he handled Mikel Antonio quite well. Mikel Antonio tried to be really physical with him, and I thought he dealt with it very, very well. But the thing that disappointed me about Shaw is his ability on the ball. The amount of times he gave the ball away was just not, it wasn't a typical Shaw performance. It wasn't like Shaw. Balls inside into the middle of midfield, or just balls like going up and long. It just constantly giving the ball away, and it's just not like him. And it just, it frustrated me at times because we weren't able to build because we just kept giving the ball away so cheaply. 7.5, defensively very strong, on the ball, not at his A game as normal.
And there was a time when he got a bit of a knock, and then he took the ball and he ran half the pitch, brought the ball up. So that's what I mean. The more he gets injured, the better he plays. So, or I don't mean injured, but a little knock. He ups his game. Even he just goes.
Almost gives him a second or third wind. Is that?
Yeah, kind of turns into the Hulk and just goes for it.
Yeah.
So next up, Botman. I say he got the ball in the face, as I mentioned. I thought I had him down as doing a good job on Antonio as well. I've given him 8. Botman.
Yeah, I did too. I agree with you, Daz. 8 for Botman. I thought physicality. If you watch the footballers or listen to the footballers football podcast with Callum Wilson and Antonio, we was talking about how he was going to bully the defenders and all the rest of it. And Botman just came in and said, "Nah, not today," and just kind of just dominated him physically. Didn't let him get a sniff. It's probably the first game I've seen Mikel Antonio not be able to dominate a centre back through sheer strength, because he's a big, strong lad.
Yeah.
But so is Botman, and I loved it because he didn't give him a sniff. Good on the ball, big and strong, spot on. 8 for me, standard 8. Would have been higher if he got a clean sheet, but yeah, again, didn't put a foot wrong. Really impressed with Botman. Good stuff. To be fair, like I say, defensively, really impressed with Shaw. Very good defensively, but just on the ball, Botman was a little bit better in moving us and progressing us forward than Shaw yesterday.
And of course, Wilson didn't celebrate in Antonio's face like he said he was going to do in the podcast. So that's probably a good thing. We don't want another yellow card.
He'd have never got away with that.
No. Right. Burn. I give him Burn 7.5. Yeah, I don't have anything else written down for Burn, but yeah, 7.5.
I've given Burn a 7. I think that was probably one of the. I don't want to use the word worst because it wasn't like a really, really bad performance, but it's probably a dipped performance for him yesterday. I still go back to that corner. I've just watched it back again. There is a duck as the ball comes in. If he stays up right, he gets it. Although there is a flick on, but I still think he should be getting onto that. For me, and this is going to go on to my further conversation, he doesn't offer anything. It just doesn't offer anything in terms of an attacking threat. And I think that really hampered us yesterday. And it really told. Defensively, I think I'm looking at some of the stats. He won 10 out of 10 aerial duels, won 10 headers, 10 out of 10 headers. Defensive side, no problem, but we need more. We need more from a left back, like what Trippier gives from an attacking sense, where how he pushes up the pitch. We need that from that left hand side, because if it doesn't work on the right, we need it from the left, and it just doesn't offer it. And I think it's very timely that Matt Targett is back in training.
That's what I was going to say. He's back in grass. Yeah, I
do think at some point, not necessarily next week or the week after or whenever, I think at some point down the line we're going to need to freshen it up. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and even freshening it up in game, just a different option, and I'm sure it'll lead us in then to the summer. And yeah, we probably should be looking either at new left back or getting the likes of Alex Murphy involved, because that's where he can play centre back, left hand centre back or left back. So maybe someone that could get in there. And I think Lewis is gone as well. Let's move on off the defence into the midfield. Longstaff, Longy. I've given Longstaff an 8. I thought he did really well. I thought there was no Bruno in the middle, of course, so he had to compensate. Thought he had a good solid game. 8.
Longstaff, I don't think he had a great game. Oh. I'll be honest. I'm not going to put him too much lower than you, but like I don't think he was overly great. And look, we've talked about him very positively this season. I think he wasn't. He looked tired, maybe, but he wasn't at the races as much. I give him a 7.5. His use of the ball wasn't as good as what he's normally is. Wasn't effective within his defensive positioning, and that's something I'll come on to in a second. To expand on that, I thought his positioning in game was not good at times. Was actually really, really poor, and it actually gave it gave West Ham a lot of confidence, in particular in the first half, to really drive forward. He got caught out of possession quite a bit. and it wasn't good for the team. And yeah, just his use of the ball just wasn't great. So for me, 7.5. Not at some of the levels that he's shown recently, in my opinion.
Cool. Maybe I just going to interrupt the ratings for a second because I see that Yano has a comment here about, and he also sent it to me on Twitter about Paqueta being offside. So yeah, so when that ball is played in, he does look like he's in kind of an offside position, but he's also off the pitch as well. Yeah. What did you make of that? Because it was never talked about in the game, and VAR didn't look at it around like that either.
I was always of the mindset that if you're off the pitch, then you
can't be offside
necessarily in play. Now, I don't know the rules on this. I could be wrong. And that's probably why he wasn't considered offside, because he wasn't in the field of play. When he's come back in at the point afterwards, he's then in play. But if there's a defender behind him, then he's obviously active and onside from that point. I don't know the ruling on it. But look, how many times have the referees not been aware of the rules, and how many times have players had to point them to the rules? And if the players didn't know it in game time, which is clear that the Newcastle players didn't, we're not gonna call that. So it's one of them with its. If it is true and he was offside, it's one of them that they've been very, very lucky with. But I don't believe, just thinking out loud, I don't believe that's the case. I do believe that he was because he was off the field of play. He wasn't, or he can't be considered offside.
And I know that in the picture that Yano had sent me, it does look like he is offside, but it's just the way it played out. And how lucky did he get going through two players' legs? Anyway, let's move back to the ratings. Willock, and he was replaced by Anderson on the 80th minute. I've given Willock a 7.5.
I'm going to give Willock a 7. I don't think Willock played well today. Yesterday, sorry. I think that was one of his most disappointing games that I've seen him play. Other than, albeit the first minute where he scores a great goal. Yeah. Ends up being ruled out as a fantastic piece of footwork to turn the defender back in on his right, bang, straight into that far corner. It's a lovely, lovely finish.
And he had a sore leg at that time as well. He was holding his knee right before that.
Yeah. I was worried. I genuinely thought he got a knee injury, and then all of a sudden he pops up with that and he celebrates as if everything's hunky-dory and he's all good. But it's almost like at that point, that's when he stopped playing. I have a real issue and concern with Willock long term. Not his running, not got an issue with that. His work rate, not got an issue with that. His directness, haven't got an issue with that. It's his ability on the ball, his ability to find passes, his ability to link the play. I have a real concern about it. We saw it Tuesday night when he plays that blind ball into Che Adams, and Che Adams gets the goal back because he doesn't look nowhere near as comfortable on the ball as any other Newcastle United midfielder. And he hasn't got the confidence or maybe even the ability, I don't know, to find passes that we are going to need at the level that we're going to. He's got the work rate, he's got the drive, he's got all the other bits to his game. But I genuinely feel that if he doesn't improve his ability on the ball, his touch, his passing, his range of passing, his tight passing in tight areas, that is going to hamper him moving to the next phase. I genuinely believe that, and this is not based on the West Ham period. This is not just based on the West Ham performance. This is based on what I've seen of him over the course of the season, because he just doesn't look comfortable with the ball. I don't get it. Maybe it's just a trait that he's just not developed yet, but he needs to very soon, because we've got players in midfield that are all very comfortable with passing the ball and being comfortable in tight spaces with the ball at their feet, and he's not.
For me, next season he's a squad player, and he's a great impact player coming off the bench. And it's just coming back to me as well. I was, because in our chat I was saying, calling to give Anderson a run out for the last 20 minutes or so, because I just thought, we need to freshen it up. So yeah, I agree with you. He didn't have the greatest of games. Let's move on. Let's go to J7. I've put J7 down as a 7.75. Yeah. What your thoughts there, Pete?
My man of the match, easily for me, Joelinton.
So.
And I've given him an 8.5 because that's the highest any of the players on the pitch will get. And the reason why he's not higher is because of that god awful dive that he did in the second half. It's the only reason he's not been given a 9. And the reason why I put Joelinton as my man of the match is because he was an absolute man mountain. The guy he was playing like he was 2 players on the pitch. He was outstanding. And I just love him in the centre midfield. I don't want to see him out on the left again. I don't want him even to be considered a left-sided attacking forward anymore. He is a central midfielder. As part of that midfield 3, he has to be in there. He is so good. He outplayed Paqueta, and he stood up and was equally as good as, in my opinion, the other best player on the pitch in Declan Rice. Declan Rice was outstanding. Right, if anyone says that Declan Rice is shite, go and watch that game back. He was unbelievable. If we had the money, if we could afford him in the summer, I would love nothing more to bring Declan Rice to Newcastle United. I don't think we can afford him personally.
Hang on.
With the money that they'll command, tell me. Okay, let me rephrase that.
Yeah,
we can afford him, but I just don't think we'll pay the money.
But at the same time, I'm sorry to put in, Pete, but as the game was on, I was thinking as well. Right, Chelsea, they've spent all this money and they've trying to sort out the midfield because you have 3 big players that are going to be going in the summer. You have Moise Caicedo, you have Jude Bellingham, and you have Declan Rice. I imagine all 3 of those are going to be on the move in the summer. Like Arsenal can't buy all 3. Liverpool can't buy all 3. Chelsea can't buy all 3. You know, Man City, will they go in and try and take one of them? They brought in kind of Phillips there, who hasn't really worked out as well. But I don't think one club will buy 2 of those. So either. So the one of them might be up for grabs.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And
if we're in the Champions League.
If we get Champions League, will we be in the race for players like that? I think it'd be mad if we weren't. But I just think the money that will be banded about for some of those players will just be too great for us. Not that we can't afford it, and I was wrong when I said we wouldn't be able to afford it. It's whether we would be willing to pay that sort of money for those players, and it having and hampering the rest of our window in where we need to strengthen. Because let's be honest, there's probably 5 or 6 players at least in that squad, in the whole squad, that need to be shipped out. So there's players that need to come in other positions. So going out and spending a huge load of money on one player in one position isn't probably viable for Newcastle United at this stage. But if you want that, if we could get that player at a reasonable price, definitely. Declan Rice was outstanding. Such a good player. Such a good player. But the reason why I say is that Joelinton, going back to the point, Joelinton and Rice were the 2 outstanding players. They were for very, very different reasons. Declan Rice is calm and control on the ball. The way he drives into midfield with the ball and he makes things happen. I loved it. I love watching him play because he has an elegance about the way he plays. Joelinton, there's no elegance about him. He's all hustle and bustle. He's just like a brick wall, bang, I'm going to go through you and I'm getting the ball as well. And he presses so high, so well. He made Paqueta look average. And I don't think Paqueta played well personally, in my opinion, not to the level that I've seen him play.
Yeah.
But if the 2 Brazilians coming up against each other, Joelinton was the better of the 2. There was no doubt about that. And he was definitely our best player. And at times he was playing as 2 men. The amount of ground he covers, you could almost argue that it was a horrible dive, but he was trying to win something for Newcastle because he was driving us forward with the ball and he was trying to make something happen. But very, very impressed with Joelinton in that midfield 3, and it's great to see him back there.
Yeah, and it's just because I've gone off on a bit of a tangent now, so maybe I'll finish what I was going to say as well. Is that if I just bring up the league table, because in my fairy tale race here for Rice, Jude Bellingham, and Moise Caicedo, I don't see Liverpool or Chelsea getting Champions League. So there's if we were to get Champions League, I'd say why not? Why wouldn't we be able to get one of those in? And we go big in the summer, but. That's fairy tale stuff at the moment. Right, back to where we are, back to the ratings, and we go to Miggy. Miggy again. I absolutely love the way himself and Trips link up. The telepathic knowledge of where they're going to be. Miggy makes the runs. Look, it didn't really work out for Miggy. He got taken off in the 80th minute. I'm gonna give him. Maybe I should up my Joelinton rating to 8 and give Miggy the 7.75. So because I don't think Miggy was on the same level as Joelinton either. So yeah, I'm going to give Joelinton the 8 and give Miggy 7.75.
Yeah, Miggy, I'm also going to give a 7. I don't think Miggy played well. I thought he was poor. And I'm not going to say I'm concerned about his performances, but I need to see more from him, is what I'm going to say. I need to see more from Miggy. I'm not expecting the goals every game. I'm not expecting him, if he doesn't score, he's shit. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there is elements to his game that have just dropped off. And it's a worry for me, personally. And I think we need Miggy playing and firing on all cylinders if we're gonna get Champions League football. But that performance yesterday was not good. And he still does all this stuff. He runs, he works. Probably didn't work back as much as he normally does. I noticed his recovery runs were not as good as normal, which is feeding into my opinion of him playing. But on the ball in attacking areas, it's not working right now. And we talked about it, actually, me and you, when we did a review show way back when. And I was worried about teams figuring him out. And it feels like teams have started to figure out how to stop Miggy Almiron playing. And he's going to have to do something different, provide something different. For me, he was not great.
I'm going to note something here now, because there's a talking point I'll bring to you when we get on to something else. Because it'll link up well. Right, we'll move on. We'll go to ASM. For me, ASM, I think he's just. We did touch on it before, Pete, myself, and yourself on one of these review shows. He like when the ASM that we had when he got injured in the Wolves game, start of the season, that kind of maverick that would just be so direct and run at everything and maybe head down and go for it. Like he passed one in 4 times. Now he's passing 3 and 4 times. He's doing more kind of defensive work than attacking work. It's kind of like we've lost. He's lost his mojo, or he's that maverick thing in it. And is it a case that I'm not getting at Eddie Howe, but he's trying to play the Eddie Howe way, and then he's losing what he's good at then and what we're expecting from him. And people are saying then they're not seeing the defensive work that he's doing, or he's trying to fit into the Eddie Howe way of playing, and they're expecting the maverick kind of style to him, and they're having a go at him then. So he needs to get that balance though, and that's going to be key for me. That's going to be key for him to be able to stay at Newcastle. Can he do both? Because if he can do both to some degree, he's an asset for the team. If he can't, what have we got? We're losing. He's not going to be a first team regular for us then. And rating 7.25 for ASM.
It's really weird for me, but I'm actually going to agree with you on the score. I'm going to go 7.25.
Another what I said.
And the reason why is because I actually thought ASM overall played better than Miggy. Now, you raised a really good point, and you're not the only one to raise this point. I'm going to take a deep breath here because there's a lot to talk about with ASM, because he has been the talk of Newcastle, as he normally is. And Yano's raised a good point. Has Eddie ruined ASM? I don't think it's Eddie, but has he changed? Maybe. Ruins maybe a harsh word. Has he changed ASM too much? David Cook seems to think no. ASM's ruined ASM. I don't understand how that could happen personally, but it's an interesting point. And I'll come to ASM, and I think you've touched on a point that I want to develop a little bit more. ASM has been told by the fan base, and I assume by the coaching staff, that he has to do both jobs. He has to defend, he has to attack. He's been told, ASM listens to social media. He looks at the comments, he responds, he does all this stuff. It's very, very clear that ASM is trying to be the player that everybody wants him to be. He wants to be the one that defends and tackles and gets back and defends, but he also wants to be the match winner. And I genuinely believe that ASM right now is trying too hard. Yeah. He's trying too hard in his game, which is why he's not performing at the level that he can be. Now, there are different caveats to that. There are different elements to that we can get into. But you look at his defensive performances, he made the most tackles in defensive positions than any other Newcastle player. So he's doing his defensive job. He might not always be running back, sprinting back to help his defenders, but that's not part of the role. Joelinton helps out on the left-hand side. Joe Willock helps out on the right. Miggy and ASM get back as the third defensive option. That's the clear tactic. So if you see ASM high up at the pitch, having ran up and tried to create something going forward, and he's not busting the gut to get back, that's because Joelinton needs to be there. If Joelinton is not there, that's on Joelinton. The same on the other side of Willock. And I'll go through this in a second when I get the board up. So he's clearly doing his defensive job. Some of the tackles he made yesterday were brilliant. Some last-ditch ones that were put in really difficult positions by West Ham. And he was there, and he made the tackles, and he started counters off the back of it. So he's clearly doing that. But what it's doing, it's hampering him doing things further forward. Now, I would argue that for the first 10 or 15 minutes, everything for Newcastle was played down the right-hand side. And that's fine, because that's where we've got our most success from. So we're not utilising ASM the way we should be. Do I think his performance was good? No, not from an attacking position. I don't think he was good at all. And that's where ASM, in my opinion, needs to improve, because that's what we know ASM to be. ASM is an attacking threat. Clubs and teams are scared of him because they know what he can do on the ball. And I genuinely believe he's not confident at the moment. He's lost his confidence. He doesn't play every week. He's coming off the bench. He's trying to prove a point. But I think every player loses their confidence now and again. And I think ASM has lost his confidence now. Now, I'll go to the point a lot of people are talking about and saying, he didn't have a great performance. Gordon did more than him in 15 minutes than ASM did in 70. And I agree with that. I'm sure we'll talk about Gordon. Gordon was very good. But it wasn't long ago that we were saying the same about ASM, coming off the bench, having 15, 20 minutes ago. Yeah. That boy needs to start. He's come on and changed the game. He's been excellent. And it's like, people have real short memories. Like when you've played for 70 minutes and the team knows how you're playing and you're in a set system, if you're a new player coming onto the pitch, it is quite easy to come in and change the game and give something different. And Gordon did, and he did very, very well. I'm a big fan of what I think is to come for Anthony Gordon. But what my question is, for those that are hammering ASM right now, what's going to happen when Gordon gets the start, and he will eventually, whether it's on the right or the left, he'll start. It'll be built. ASM will start next week against Bournemouth, in my opinion, and he'll start the weekend after against Liverpool. They'll give him a run of games to prove himself because he needs a run of games to start regularly. You don't just go, right, I've got one performance, it wasn't great, when the team weren't great either, by the way, shall I say.
Yeah.
The team weren't great. It wasn't just ASM. I've only seen ASM being hammered on social media. He wasn't the only bad player. I've just named two. Burn and Miggy Almiron, in my opinion, were worse than him on the pitch yesterday. They haven't been hammered at all. So for me, I'm thinking he needs a run of games. And if he doesn't perform in 3 or 4 games, then yeah, bring Gordon in. Just like we did with Bruno Guimaraes back in January. Shelvey kept his spot, and Botman. Shelvey kept his spot. Burn kept his spot until the other person won their place back. Nothing's going to change with that. Now, my question is that what are you going to do if then Gordon comes on and starts matches and does exactly what ASM does? We have a bad performance and Gordon doesn't play well. He has a bit of a downer. Are people going to get on Gordon's back and go, I get back to Everton, you're rubbish, we need to sell him, move him on, waste the money, blah, 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 blah. Or are you going to get behind him? That's my question. Are you going to get behind him? Are you going to say, I want him out, get rid of him? Because the one thing I'll say is that Alan Saint-Maximin will leave Newcastle United at some point. Whether it's the summer, whether it's the January 2024 or the summer after that. ASM will leave the club. But nothing's going to change. ASM's not been playing recently. Who's been the hot topic of conversation and the voice of hate? Sean Longstaff. Everyone gets on at Sean Longstaff because he's not the player. He's not good enough. He's rubbish. He misses too many chances. Blah, 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 blah. Get him out of the team. Buy another player that's going to replace him. Nothing's going to change because the negativity, people just like to be negative. And the negativity is always going to be there regardless, right? ASM leaves, Sean Longstaff will be the next one in line. If Sean Longstaff's not the next one in line, it'll be Anthony Gordon. If Anthony Gordon's not the next one in line, it'll be Callum Wilson. There's always going to be someone that somebody is not going to like, and there's always going to be the point of that's the reason why we didn't win. They're always going to be the one that's going to be pointed at. Whereas actually, we need to be getting behind the players. We need to be getting Champions League football this season. We deserve Champions League football this season. And by pointing a finger at one player after the whole team played really poor yesterday, I think is incredibly harsh. On his first start since, August in the Premier League? I think it's incredibly harsh for me. And I think those that are really gunning for ASM, personally, I just think they just don't like him. And that's fine. If you just don't like the player, come out and tell me you just don't like the player, or just say you don't like the player. Don't make excuses. Don't go, he didn't track back. He didn't track back twice in the game, so therefore he's deflecting his defensive duties. Go and look at the stats. He defended just as good as anybody else, and in some cases better. Yes, you can argue we didn't play well going forward, but neither did Miggy Almiron. Miggy Almiron was actually worse than him. Go and watch the game back. I've watched it back 3 times now. He was not good.
3 times. I've only watched it once and Match of the Day highlights.
Yeah, but this is me. This is me. This is not because I loaded. I've said it before. It's not because I loaded and what we do here. This is me. I always do it. I always watch back games. I watch back players. I watch back how people perform. Miggy Almiron was no different or no better. In fact, it was worse, in my opinion, than ASM. But ASM gets the heat. Why? Why? It's because we want him and are so desperate for him to be our match winner because we needed someone different. But yet we get
if he scores the next day, he's the hero again. You know, he's kind of in some ways an easy target to hit. But 2 good points you made there, Pete. A lot of good points, and I'm not going to argue with anything you said because I agree with everything you said. Maybe other people in the panel would disagree. So we're not going to have a debate, I'm afraid. But what you said that most of the ball is going down the right, and you have that Trippier Miggy link up. We do, and you pointed to it in your ratings. We don't have that with Byrne, because Byrne isn't knocking forward. He's not the same type of player as Trippier. So ASM isn't getting that the same level that Miggy is getting. That's one thing, and the other thing is, with where we are now, we've Gordon, ASM, and Miggy. If I was Eddie Howe, I would be looking at training and going, who can I put on here that's going, who's performing the best in training? That's who I'm going to start, and rotate it if necessary, and have one of the three being the sub, the impact player for whoever isn't performing on the day in whatever given game is on. So, and it's good to have that option now as well. So yeah, and I agree. You do need to give ASM a run of games. Would I would drop one of ASM or Miggy for the next game though, and start Gordon. That's just being me, but I don't know. I suppose Eddie, I know the way Eddie Howe goes about it as well. He does kind of introduce people gradually, but then again, Botman and Bruno were coming from different leagues. Gordon is well used to playing in the Premier League, so he might approach it differently. So again, as always, that team selection at 4:30 next week will be interesting for the game at 5:30.
There's a couple of comments that have come up that are quite interesting. Joelinton for Life said, "What is ASM's main role? To create chances and score goals. ASM is not going on his natural instincts." And you're absolutely right, but that's because he's low on confidence at the moment. You can tell. You can look. To be fair, there was talk about it from a lot of national journalists that he doesn't look himself. Not because he's not happy, but he just looks like he's not his happy, smiley self at this moment in time that you normally see. And the reason being is because he's not playing regularly. He's rusty. Someone said in the chat, he is rusty. You can't just play 15, 20-minute cameo roles and then be expected to go and play 75 minutes for the first time and think that everything's okay. Certain players are programmed differently. And that's just the way it is. And NUFC Shane made a really good point here. If St. Maximin had fullbacks like Kieran Trippier behind him, he'd be so much better. Fans need to remember he gets no help from Dan Burn at all. And I just want to take the screen off you for a second, Daz.
Yeah.
And this is what I wanted to come up to. So you can see the screen here. Got rid of a lot of the attacking players from West Ham because it's not needed here. But you can see here, this is roughly how the system that West Ham started with the same players. Now, what you found so many times with ASM, and it happens game in, game out, is that when ASM gets the ball in this moment here, this is what happens here. Now, what you need is someone to take one or two of these players off. So what he was getting last season and what was happening, whoever was playing on the left last season, was this from target, making that run there. Not even necessarily getting the ball. But what you do, you drag that player off
Taking
there.
a few.
And then what you do is you have Joelinton or whoever's on this left-hand side to make a run or to create a little space in there that brings that player there, which creates the one-on-one. How many times I saw this against ASM, and we're expecting him to constantly beat the man like this when Burn is sat here. Like, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. Almiron doesn't get the same situation. I'll bring it over to here. So any one of these players, Willock, Longstaff, can get that ball here, and they'll play that ball into here. They'll play that ball into here, or they'll play it to Trippier. But what you'll find is in that little triangle that we talk about, and Bruno is normally this guy here. What you'll tend to find is that Miggy can move in or he can move out. But he does that based on this. And what you see time and time again in the game is this. And he'll make that ball run into that space. Whether he gets the ball or not, it doesn't matter. What that does, it drags him here. So what that does is then open up a one-on-one situation because he gets attracted to the ball. That ball gets played in here. Almiron either goes inside or outside. And he gets the chances off the back of that. The Willock goal comes from here. The ball gets played in here. The ball gets played back to Willock. Willock cuts in, bang, goal. Gets ruled out, fair enough. But that's what works. It works.
Yeah, and that's our tactic, Pete, and that's the way I think I has set us up. And if you remember back to when we were talking about like Trippier is playing as a kind of a wing back, and we were reverting to three at the back, kind of with Byrne, Botman, and Chart. So at the same time, Byrne can't be two places either, and you're right. ASM isn't getting the freedom that Almiron is getting, and the service from Trippier, because Trippier is up so far. So if you put ASM out where Miggy is, then he'd have more space for sure.
Go on. Sorry, Dash.
Yeah, no, exactly what you're doing there, and that's where he'll have to, if Miggy isn't firing on all cylinders, he'll have to mix it up and change that position, because everything is going through that right hand side, and where ASM is sitting there now on that right wing. So whoever is playing, whether it's Miggy, ASM, or Gordon in the future, that's the key. That's the pivotal point in our team. That's where we've got our points this season, if you think about it. And that if Miggy isn't on fire, put someone else in there in that spot, or flick it around the other side.
I would love to see this. I would love to see Trippier leading and coaching and supporting ASM on this right hand side through a game of football. I would love it, because I think ASM has the ability to do the unpredictable, but he also can make those runs in and behind. But what you then got is, if he gets those runs into this area, is a natural right-footed player that can get the balls into there to Wilson or Isak, whoever.
The other side.
Then natural wingers is that what you then find is Miggy Almiron here, which, if you remember the Southampton goal on Tuesday, Miggy was here, played the ball back into this space, and this is where Longstaff came onto for the second goal. Why? Because he's naturally a left-footed player. And I genuinely believe, yes, there's going to be times where it works, where Miggy plays on this right-hand side, but I genuinely believe that there are certain times in the game, certain pockets of the game, where they need to switch. ASM sometimes plays some really good stuff on this right-hand side, has assisted a number of goals on this right-hand side and created moments by playing in this area. And I do believe at some point, to maximise our chances, especially without Bruno, that needs to happen. But this here, against that three, and it's not the first time it's happened, is not realistic. You cannot expect a man to beat three men and not have an outside runner or anyone creating any moments in here, because the next ball in is Joelinton, and the next ball for Joelinton is working their way back across, and we're keeping the ball. So that then takes ASM out of the game. So he's only there to receive the ball, to just play it backwards. If he then gets the ball and tries to take on those three men and loses it, who's going to get the shit for that? ASM, because he's lost the ball. But we've lost the ball to three men, and it happens so often. ASM keeping the ball and keeping things ticking over is better than normal. But we don't want him to just do that. ASM is a unique player. That's why we signed him. That's why he was so influential for us under Bruce, because he did the unpredictable. We've lost the unpredictability of ASM because he's conforming to just playing nice, easy, tight football, and we're not allowing him to go and produce the moments possible. And if we need to move him to get those moments, they're moments that could potentially win us a game against a team like West Ham. And that's why I raised the point, because it's not cut and dry that he's just playing shit. It's not cut and dry that he's just not defending. He's doing the defensive side of things much better than he ever has before. And we're not conceding goals off the fact that he's not defending, because he is. But what we're losing is why we signed Anisette Maxim.
Yeah.
We're losing that spot.
What everyone expects.
Of course. Everyone expects him to go take 2 or 3 men on and create a moment. But he's not willing to do that at the moment because he's trying so hard.
And he's been a team player in doing so.
He's trying to conform and try so hard to be a team player. But he's lost his individuality. And if I'll be honest with you, if he's lost, if you're gonna try and conform him and he loses his individuality, there's no point in having Set Maximum at the club. You might as well sell him now. Send him to AC Milan. Sell him to another club, because ASM's individuality is what makes him so good, and why so many teams, are scared of him, because they are. You hear West Ham players, you hear any other player, they still say, Who's the player that you most fear most at Newcastle? Alan Maximin, because he's unpredictable, but he's lost his unpredictability. We need to get that back, some way, shape, or form, whether it's changing his position or allowing players to play in certain ways that gives him the space to do what he needs to do. But going back to the original point, he didn't have a good game from an attacking point of view, which is why I put him the same as you as a 7.25. But there were players that were worse on the pitch. Someone's put in the comments that Miggy had more touches and did blah, 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 this, that, and the other. He may well have, but he did nothing in the game. So with more touches and more opportunities, he still produced even less than Alan Maximin. That, for me, makes his performance even worse than Alan Maximin's, which is why I said what I said.
If we were to play out another scenario, right? Let's say Target is back and Target is firing and being back, and he's in favour for Eddie Howe. And then if you were to move Target on for Burn, I think you get more, as you're saying, we get more out of ASM than whoever is playing on that left hand side. But what we'll lose out then is we'll concede more goals, because that's been a factor, a massive factor in our season. Is we're so solid at the back, and we're not as susceptible to counter attack because we've three there sitting at the back will mop up everything while Trippier is moved up a bit forward. So it's maybe it's something that having the option in games as well, that that let's say we go a goal behind, or we are in a 0-0 or 1-1 situation like we were yesterday, that you take Burn off, you bring on Target. The Target would connect more with ASM, and you get more out of that left wing as well as the right. So it's those options that will be available to Eddie Howe as we get into the run in, because we are in that run in now. But no, that's great. Great analysis.
This never happens, by the way. I don't know what Yano would got tonight, but he actually agrees with me. Bloody hell! Like, I think the world's going to end. We've got an asteroid coming in the next hour or so.
No, we're going to get Champions League, Pete. That's all. There's no spy balloons over us. We're okay. We're okay.
But equally, and look, we're fair on this channel. And I'll go back up. There was a couple of comments as well. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I want to be fair.
It's okay, because there's a million comments, and with two of us, it's very difficult.
Basically, there was a couple of comments. Craig Lee was saying, don't agree with you, blah, 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 blah. He thinks I've got some sort of rose-tinted glasses on for ASM. I just said ASM didn't have a good game from an attacking point of view. Like, I've not got rose-tinted glasses on whatsoever. And you know what? ASM may well leave the club in the summer, and if he does, fair play to him and fair play to us, because we'll get a player in, no doubt, that will come in and replace him on that left-hand side. But look, I look at it from the way I look at it, and the way I observe the game. I thought ASM, I say he was better than Miggy Almiron, not much better. I'll put it that way. He definitely wasn't. But I thought things that he did in the game were better than Miggy. I think, I'll be honest with you, Miggy really missed Bruno Guimaraes. Miggy doesn't perform well when Bruno Guimaraes is not in the team, because Bruno Guimaraes has an understanding with Miggy that Miggy doesn't have with any other player on the pitch. And I think that's why the performance was so poor from him. But look, let's wait and see. And Miggy could turn up and have a stormer next week away at Bournemouth, but so could ASM. So let's wait and see.
And the other thing, and we haven't even finished the players that started the game yet, but like when Gordon came on, was the 75th minute, the West Ham side that he was facing were tired, or the defense were tired, so he's able to run at them and cut inside as well. But look, we'll move on from ASM. We'll go to Wilson. Wilson, for me, aggression to win the ball, great goal, of course, and pointed to Longstaff where exactly he wanted, and the great ball from Longstaff for him to get to it. Then, though, for me, he's someone that needs to come off after 60 minutes and be replaced by an Isak, or Isak start and then Wilson come on later in the game as well. I don't think he can play 90 minutes now for us, and to the high level, that's the standard that he expects himself and we expect. There was the finish where it was a great tackle by our guard, and the header towards the end on the 81st minute. So all in all, it's great to see Wilson back on the score sheet. Back, the drought is over, but I'm giving them a 7.75.
I give Wilson an 8 for the finish. It was a brilliant finish. Weak foot, lovely run. If we could get more balls into him like that for his goal, he'd be okay. Although he didn't have a great game, in my opinion, it was a nice ball from Longstaff. It was. And if I'm right, I think Joelinton won the ball off Paqueta that allowed him to play the ball. Lovely finish. Held up the ball well. Looked sharper than normal. It looked like he got his fitness back. He looked like he was bang up for that game. But you're right. I agree with you. I think long term, Isak comes in, and it's frustrating because Isak finishes that second opportunity that Gordon puts through. He finishes that, and Isak races away ahead of Aguard and puts that home. But look, Wilson will score goals for Newcastle. He will go on a run where he doesn't score, but he will always score goals. I'll give him an 8 for that because I think his overall play was actually pretty good over the course of the game. Fair play to Wilson. Glad he's back scoring because we're going to need his goals. Him and Isak's goals are going to be key.
Yeah. But also getting the best out of ASM is going to be key as well, and how Gordon settled in, because he did a great cameo there. Look, we'll get to Gordon. Let's finish on Gordon, and we'll that's the ratings on. I'll give him a great through ball when he came in, and a great tackle back as well. At one point, the through ball was to Wilson. Or I'll give him an 8. I'll give him an 8 for the cameo. I don't know. I'd consider starting him over Miggy or SM on against Bournemouth. But I do know what you're saying, Pete, about ASM does need games. You can't just say that's it, because where do you? I see the logic in. Yeah, then Gordon has a bad game, then you're back to ASM, and then you keep swapping. You need to give them a run, but it is a difficult decision for Eddie Howe. I'd make the decision on training, and I think there's 2 spots there, and there's 3 players fighting for it. So any one of them could be on the bench the next day.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point. And we've already talked about it. If you play Gordon and he has a bad game, then you're back to ASM, and that conversation starts all over again. At least then, Eddie Howe can go, right, you're my guy, ASM, for 3 games. You play West Ham, Bournemouth, and Liverpool. Show me what you're about. If at that point he doesn't play or put the performances in over the course of those 3 games that he should be performing at, Gordon's in. And he goes, you know what, Gordon, show me what you're about. And 9 times out of 10, the player in the new signing, when they come in, they tend to stay in the team. And I've not got no issue with that, because I just want Newcastle United to win games. I thought Gordon looked sharp. I thought he was better on the ball than I thought he was as a player. His passing, his intelligence, his movement was better than I thought it was from what I'd seen of him at Everton. He looked hungry, which is what we talked about. Mm-hmm. The question mark was, I said to you way back when, the question mark, this is when we were talking about when he was still an Everton player, like at the back end of last season. I think the question was asked to us, would you take Gordon? And I said at that point, I'm not quite sure, because I don't think he would give what he gives for Everton, because it's the club he came up with. But he's got the hunger.
Yeah, no, and he wants to prove it.
He does. Yeah. He wants to prove Everton wrong. He wants to prove a point to Everton and their fans, and he wants to prove it in Newcastle. And you could tell when he came on. And you know what? If he keeps putting in performances like that, whether it is ASM or Miggy, you won't be able to keep him out of the team.
No, and the other thing, Pete, is I think he wants to prove it to himself as well. He could have sat there at Everton. Maybe Everton even got relegated and moved to a Chelsea in the summer or whatever like that. Again, but no, he saw Eddie Howe gets the best out of players. He can make you a better player, and he wants that. So I think, I think he's going to hit the ground running first, and I agree when he does come in, I think he'll stay in. So to answer, put a question back to you, Pete. You are Eddie Howe. You are doing your team sheet for the Bournemouth game. You've watched training all week, and of course that'll be a major factor. But who are you starting in those key positions on against Bournemouth? Are you sticking with the exact same team? And also you've got Isak back in the mix as well.
I think it's hard to take Wilson out of the team because he scored. So I think, he'll stick with Wilson, and it's Bournemouth as well, his old club. I think he's going to stick with. I think he's going to stick with Wilson, and I do genuinely believe he'll stick with ASM, whether people agree with it or not. I was always of the mindset, even before the West Ham game, that ASM would get 3 games to win his place back before the final. And I think he'll stick with that, and he'll stick with that team, and he'll go again. But he will also go at 60, 70 minutes, depending on how the game's going. He'll go to Gordon to replace possibly ASM or Miggy, depending on how the game's going and how the team playing. I think he'll go with the same. Someone just put in the chat, Gordon being cup tied may mean that ASM gets the 3 games, and I'm inclined to agree with you. If Gordon comes on and scores 2 or 3 goals, then you can't keep him out of the team. If he comes on and scores against Bournemouth, like he starts against Liverpool, like there's no doubt about it. But if ASM has a good game and he plays well and he gets an assist or maybe even gets a goal, then you're talking about a different situation. But the key to it is that ASM can actually play in the cup final. Yeah. And he needs to build up ASM to make sure that he's match ready to potentially play in the cup final, whether it's off the bench, whether it's starting. He needs to build him up because Gordon's not available. So there was a good point in the chat with that comment, but I would stick with this team, if I'm honest with you, and then look for Gordon to come on and go on the right or left and go from there. But I'll be honest with you, like we have to not be in a position where Murphy comes on, and it's no disrespect to Murphy, but we need players to be sitting. Our first team players to be seeing through 90 minutes, so we're not having to make these changes. If we're 2 or 3 and up, it's different. But when we're still chasing the game, still chasing a win, I don't know what other people think in the chat. Daz, I don't know what you think, but having Murphy come on, it doesn't fill you with confidence.
No, it doesn't. I think you've convinced me, Pete, to stick with the same team, right? And with the logic you said tonight. Before I come on the show, I was getting rid of ASM or Miggy and starting Gordon, but now I'm willing to go with the same team and take Wilson off on 60 minutes. Because he'd be out of juice at that stage, and I'd be taking off either ASM or Miggy, whoever isn't performing to the standards, and bring on Gordon. Then I don't know, maybe on 65 minutes or whatever. We'll see. But I'll roll the dice and go with that. And the other thing is why I think Eddie will keep the same team is because how long did he give Wilson? Like Wilson didn't score since October, and he gave him all that time and all those games to get his goal. And now he's going to say, well, I was right. He would score again. But so I think he will stick with ASM unless something comes up in training during the week. But I think he will. People won't like it. But
Joelinton for life. Come on, man. There was no way I want Dummett starting ahead. You know what? We've been big, massive Dan Burn fans recently, but yeah, he just didn't play too well in that last game, in my opinion. I can't believe Craig Lee. You're telling me about tinted glasses, and then you're telling me you want Joelinton dropped for Bournemouth. You're having a laugh. He was man of the match. He's the best player on the team. You need your best players playing.
Maybe it's to the yellow cards indicating.
I don't care. You have a word with him in his ear and you tell him to mind your tackles. You don't tell him that he's on the bench. What's that going to do to his confidence before the cup final?
Hang on, Pete. Okay, Joelinton goes and gets another yellow card against Bournemouth, and he has to go into play against Liverpool the game before the cup final. I would drop him then because I keep him for the cup final, but that's just me. But yeah, you don't want him if he doesn't pick up a booking at Bournemouth. Then let him loose at Liverpool as well, and then he'll be fine once he doesn't get sent off.
Nah, it's look, we're fighting on. This is Newcastle now. We're fighting on two fronts: Champions League and we won a trophy. So you know we're going to have to play it, and we're going to have to put trust in the players to do the business. How many times have other teams in years gone by where they've been one yellow card away or two yellow cards away, and they played them regardless, and they've just trusted that they're going to mind themselves? We're going to have to ask the same for Joelinton. And you know what? If he doesn't do it, we'll be absolutely distraught, but it'll be his own fault because he's not watched his game. He's not managed his game correctly. He's got to be careful. He can't just keep picking up yellow cards all the time. He's close to 10 yellow cards, and we're already halfway through the season. Like that, for me, that's Tiote discipline. That's not good. Like you need to manage your game better. You can be all action, but don't have to necessarily pick up yellow cards every game. But it's, again, it's one of those things.
Should we go to a few questions, Pete?
Of course.
What have we got?
There's loads of questions.
31.
Just the old 31. But yeah, there's a couple, to be fair, that have already been said. So we'll start from in fact, not even a question. We'll start from the beginning. Don't forget to show your support by clicking on and subscribing to the channel. On the way to 6K, click that thumbs up. Show your support. Make sure you support the Lodi family, and click that thumbs up. Hey everybody from NEWWHU. Is there an argument for Longstaff being in the number 6 and Bruno playing as an 8? We need more creativity further up the pitch. What do you think, Naz?
I think when Bruno comes back, goes back in the exact same position he was. Once we have our players available and fit, we'll play the exact same way, and everyone in their rightful positions until we get to summer. If they wanted to do something different, they should have bought someone. They didn't, and we let Shelby go, so we're stuck with what we have. Not a bad thing to be stuck with the players we have because they are pretty good. But in the summer we'll do something different.
Okay, fair play. Michael Perma said Aguerd and Rice really stood out. Thought West Ham were the best team. We played at St James's outside of Man City. Having said that, they only had one shot on target all game. But would you agree with that West Ham the best team we played at St James's this season, other than Man City, of course?
Yeah, they did play well. We didn't have a good day. We're missing Bruno and Isaac. Of course, we're a bit hungover from the cup final, or from the cup semi-final, second leg, and getting to Wembley. But yeah, and I agree. Aguerd and Rice were class. And yeah, I remember his name being linked with the time of Botman as well. But I'd still rather Botman. And Botman is younger. Botman is like 23, where Aguerd is coming on 27 in a month's time or something like that. So yeah, but I would like just to go for Rice, as I mentioned earlier. If because the Premier League is where I know you could have like the Real Madrid and Barcelona again come looking at other players, but the Premier League is where the money is, and so that's why I think if we get Champions League, we're in for a shot of the top players, the top end of the players. So just have to get there first.
Definitely. And look, George Hayes, firstly, thank you so much for the £50 donation, $50 donation to the channel.
Cheers, George.
Thank you so much. George, you're a massive supporter of the channel, and we really do appreciate it. It makes a massive difference to us. But to buy me an I Love ASM t-shirt is going a little bit too far. Look, it doesn't matter whether it's ASM or whoever. I think if I feel like there's something to stand up against, like we did, and Daz, you're with me with Sean Longstaff early on in the season, people were still hammering him, but we kind of at some point flew that Longstaff flag. You know, if I feel that it's the case, I will.
Yeah.
And we've done it before, and we'll do it again.
And it's about opinions as well, Pete. Sometimes a lot of the time we agree on a lot of stuff, to say the truth, but sometimes we don't. And then you'll have like other members of the panel will definitely disagree on different things, and then you go to wider again. Like the fan base is a bit split at the moment when it comes to ASM, but we need to give him a chance. He is only that was his first full starting for so long, and if you remember that he got injured scoring a goal against Wolves to get us a point that time. So give him a chance.
Definitely. If I was going to get a shirt personally, the person I'd have on the back, and I don't really have names on the back anymore, but if I was going to have a name on the back, it would be Alexander Isak. I love the boy. I want him back fit. I want him back playing. It's hard for me because I love Callum Wilson as well, and I banged the drum for him for over 2 years. But I just love Alexander Isak. I just think he's absolute class. So if it was gonna be a love-in for me with anyone, Alexander Isak.
And for me, it's Bruno, and I have Bruno's name on the back of my jersey. I just absolutely love Bruno.
There you go. Differences of opinion, of course. This is why we love Loaded Mag NUFC. Daniel Much, absolutely spot on. And you know what, Daniel? I'm going to give you a big up because I saw your name mentioned on the Footballers Football podcast. I was watching the episode last week when you put a comment in about, I think it was about a certain player when they were going into the Strikers Union. And your name came up. Please tell me if it wasn't you, because it was exactly the same name, and I just thought it was you straight away. So if it wasn't, please tell me. But big up for that, mad respect. And he puts questions. So since it was widely agreed that this was ASM's chance to prove he deserves a spot in the team, and that he didn't really perform well, are you in the keep or sell camp in the summer? Good question, Daniel. Daz, we'll come straight to you.
That's fine, because I have said from the start of the season, let's give ASM the season. Let's see how he performs. He started off really well. He got injured. He came back as getting a few cameos. Now he started a game, and it is his chance with Bruno missed for a few games, but I will make a decision in the summer whether we sell or keep ASM. And also ASM, if he may need to be kind of a squad player, because I have an awful lot of squad players in my vision for next season. But I'll make a call on them then, and I'll press the button and sell them. I will be ruthless. I've been ruthless on loads of players. If we need to sell, we need to sell, and we get a decent price from as well. We do sell, but so. I'm also happy, well happy to keep him if we get the ASM that we know and love. But he needs to master both the defensive duties and bring back that maverick and get his confidence back.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. So yeah, we'll stick with that one. Easily answered. I'll just put just some comments on here. Everyone's going about the ASM loving. Look, it's not that deep. I've got to be honest, Joelinton for life. It really isn't. Craig Lee said he'd have Joelinton on the back. Yeah, great choice there. And of course, Joelinton for life said he'd be Dan Burn. Of course, he would be. Yeah, he's watching me, but I'm watching you as well. I want to see your reaction if he has another bad game at the weekend. Fingers crossed he doesn't, by the way.
You know what, Pete? If Martin had been able to come on the show tonight, I think there would have been more of a debate on ASM. There has been in the past, and because I know Martin is more on the side of no, I think he should be dropped, and he'd be edging towards the, not even going to say Graham Bailey, but he would be more of that thought on ASM. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not on to give his point of view, but I'm sure he will pretty soon.
All right. Gordon looked more precise with every touch than Maxi, in Lisa's opinion. He made that amazing pass to Wilson, which was such a shame it didn't go to a goal. Yeah, we'll have to agree with you with that. He looked really, really good in his cameo appearance. But as I've said, Maxi, Isak, in cameo appearances have looked really good as well. Sometimes it can be easy to really kind of outperform your current players on the pitch when you come off the bench and you're fresh and the West Ham team are tired. But no, not take, to be fair, can't take anything away from Gordon. Really pleased to see it. Want to see more of it. Eventually want to see him starting and doing his stuff for Newcastle, because I would love nothing more than Gordon to prove Everton fans wrong. Nothing more would make me feel happier. But yeah, great point, Lisa, as well. Let's go down. Daz, are you concerned by this? Max Debate says lots of draws lately. Are you concerned by that?
I am. If you look at the table, we're 10 draws. So I am concerned that we're not turning some of those draws into victories. Even if it's at the expense that we lose a few, and we get more than more 3 points than 0 points in those. But yeah, it's too many draws already. And that's something that we're going to have to change next season. We're going if we're going to mount a challenge to try and either retain a Champions League spot next season or get into a Champions League spot for the first time next season. It's something we're going to have to change. And it's not only we need to be we've relied a bit much on Miggy and the scintillating form he had at the start of the season. We need goals coming from other areas of the pitch.
No, fair point. Yeah, I just see it as I just see it from a positive perspective, is that we're not losing. Although it can be frustrating, the Palace game yesterday, frustrating, but we're not losing matches.
You don't want another draw though against Bournemouth. I'd rather us go for it and fucking lose than and okay, points are valuable, but go for it. We have to.
You don't get Champions League football with draws.
No,
you're absolutely right.
We will get top 6 with draws. But
yeah. But no, you're right. They are games that you would expect to win, but there's only so many draws you can kind of withstand. Yeah. Just comments really, Michael. This was during our conversation about Gordon. He wasn't a huge fan of Gordon. He wasn't happy with the signing.
Oh, he definitely wasn't.
On the reaction show, he was going mad. But yeah, delighted to see how excellent Gordon looked. Really changed the game for us in the final third. Good to know your opinion on that, Michael. You agree. Another comment on here as well from Alan. Great to see you in the chat, Alan. Pete Daz, ASM is or had a free roll under Bruce. He does not take instructions on board. Don't necessarily agree with that. He's tracked back yesterday, but ineffective going forward. I do agree with that. And he's low on confidence and will he get a run in the team? I do agree with that. Low on confidence. He did track back yesterday, but do you agree with doesn't take instructions on board? And what do you think?
No, I don't agree with that part of it, Alan. I think he is taking instructions on board. He's doing exactly what Eddie Howe is asking him to do. He is tracking back a bit. He's getting the tackles in. It's just that he in doing that, he is losing a bit of what we're so used to, and it is that unpredictability about him. And just, but I think Pete makes a great point in the analysis on the tactics board, is that he's got no support on that left, whereas Miggy has support in the ship of Trippier because he's up further, and Dan Burn is playing a different role. With the way the tactics are set up, we're kind of lobsided to go everything go down the right. and that means that ASM is snookered in that with a number of people on him. But I think he's definitely taking instructions on board. If he wasn't, he'd be just head down, go for it. He might get lucky and get a goal, but it's not. It's he's been more of a team player now than he ever was. So he's definitely taking instructions on board. He just needs to get the balance right. And we said that, Pete, when he was doing the cameo appearances coming as a sub, that there's something missing, and he just needs to find the balance.
Yeah, no, great points, Daz, and I agree. And what I said, how does anyone know that he doesn't take instructions on board? Again, a great point. We don't know that for sure. Obviously, it's Alan's opinion. Respect that, but equally, we don't know for sure. So until we know that for sure, until it's been told to us that he's not taking instructions on board, then it's hard to speculate from that perspective as well. I'll come away from the ASM talk because there's so many questions on that. We'll come back to it, of course. Alan's put again, I see Joelinton is already learning off Anthony Gordon already. I think he's referring to the diving.
Diving or the driving?
Oh, yeah, let's not get into that. But a bit of both. A bit of both. I'm sure there'll be besties very, very soon. Daryl, great to have Darren in the chat from the Journeys Down South boys. Why is the conversation moving from top 4 to top 6? The aim should be Champions League qualification, nothing more, nothing less. Back the lads and trust the process. Do you agree, Daz?
Yeah, but we are. For myself, I need, because I've been, we're getting to the Champions League. I don't want to come to the end of the season. We finished 6th and being totally depressed, because at the start of the season I said top 8 or higher. So from where we were, it would be a bit of a downer finishing 6th. But so I have to kind of get my head right as well. Yeah, it can go. These games are key. That's coming up, and we have to concentrate. That forget about the going to Wembley. We're missing Bruno. We have to get the job done. We have to get out and get the 3 points at Bournemouth. Not another draw. We need to get the 3 points. I think. If we get another draw and then lose against Liverpool, yeah, we're heading into 6th trajectory then. But trust the process, but we have to be a bit realistic as well. We are ahead of the project, so if we can keep our heads there, great. If not, and I think Foxy said it, it's still been an incredible season for us, no matter what happens.
Well, Lisa liked that response from you, which is great. As always. Just a comment, really. Huge ASM debate that we had earlier on in the show. First start in the 6 months. Surely match sharpness will come after a couple of games, 2 or 3 games. That's why I think he'll start. It'll give him an opportunity to prove his fitness, play regular minutes, 75 minutes, 2-3 games in a row. Gives an opportunity to build up some speed and performances, and then a decision will be made after that point, I think.
I think Gordon might get more of a look in the Liverpool game. He mightn't start, but it's right before the cup final. You want to kind of make sure everyone's fully fresh as well going into the cup final. So I think as Gordon will gradually get more time as we get closer to in the next 2 games. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. Mark Todd, are we mentally just as much as physically challenged trying to maintain our unbeaten 16-game run? It's a great question. Do you think the players are so focused on trying not to be beat that it's almost having just as much of an impact as being physically tired after giving so much to the cup games, and Fumby adds with that as well. But I think we aren't taking into account how much we've put into the cup games. We won the last 3 and scored at home and away. Once in the cup is out the window, we will be fine. Interesting points from both. I'll go back to Mark's point there. What do you think about that?
Well, Fundy is probably off getting his suit measured like Dan Byrne. He's probably so focused on the cup final. But no, I don't know. I don't think it's mentally challenged as well as physically challenged. No, I think Eddie Howe and the team and the coaching team will be drumming into them. Forget about everything else. It's just all about the next game, and that's the attitude they've done all along this season and last season. So I don't think it as we get closer to it. No, I don't think it's a mental challenge thing. I think if Isak, even if Isak was there on and available to play against West Ham, I think we could have got a win. It's just something to switch it up. He would have got come on in 30 minutes. After 60 minutes, and got us a goal, or assist for a goal. We'll have that option available to us on next Saturday. What's your thoughts there, Pete, on that one?
I do think that the cup is we've had a little bit of a hangover. I do believe that's the case. I think we've put so much focus on getting to a cup final, something we haven't achieved since '99. That the players have given everything to it, the club have given everything to it to get to that final because it's presented itself to us. That I think some of the players did have a little bit of a hangover and were tired. I do fully expect to see a more vibrant, a sharper, more switched on Newcastle United against Bournemouth. I do expect that. I do expect us to be fitter, hungrier against Bournemouth, even though it's away from home. I still expect it because we'd have had a full 7 days to prepare for it with rest, proper training, which Eddie's talked about as well. With having the midweek games, there's been rest days and then not enough games on the training pitch. He said about Ashby, he said about Gordon. They've not really had a proper opportunity to have a run of training sessions to know how we train and how we prepare for games. I think they're going to have that in this next 7 days in the build up to Bournemouth, and I expect there to be a different type of Newcastle that comes out there, and hopefully it results in a much better performance. But great point from Mark Todd. Really good point. I just want to add. I think Richie dropped me a message just because we were talking about the potential offside. And he sent me a picture. I've not uploaded it, but
there's Richie back in the studio.
He is back at the studio. You're absolutely right. And I'll read it. It's gone when either. Sorry, so it's got number one. You're involved in play before the next stoppage of play. Number two, the defending team has played the ball towards the halfway line, and the ball is outside the penalty area. It says when either of this happens, you are considered to be at the goal line. This most likely results in you being in an offside position. You will commit an offside offence when you do any of these three things. 1, interfere with play. 2, interfere with an opponent. And 3, gaining an advantage by playing the ball or interfering with an opponent. Now, as we know, Paqueta scored the goal. If you are involved in play in any way, you will be called offside. This is because your position is considered to be at the goal line. You'll be closer to the goal line compared to both the ball and the second last defender. So they are, I'm assuming, the official rules. We've been on the show, so we've not had any opportunity to look at it ourselves personally, but Richie's in the studio looking at it for us and giving us that information. So yeah, from what Yano said,
thanks, Richie.
The VAR, as Daz has quite rightly put in there, ruled out. So therefore, just add those couple of points, Premier League, onto our league table, and all is forgotten.
I think Richie should have been a referee. He'd be a class referee. Nothing I've asked him.
We can referee some of my daughter's games in the morning. So I tell you what, some of the referee is an absolute disgrace, and the guy's linked to our team as well. It's so bad. But moving on, just some points during the July. Remember, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man U, Brighton, Spurs all have St James's Park all have to come to St James's Park. It's in our hands. Great point as well. David Cook, any word from Lawless? Nothing. No word at all. I tell you what, we had a heated discussion in the build-up to the West Ham game Saturday morning on our Race for Europe chat. Very, very heated. All about Harris and Ashby. It was interesting.
Who's Lawless? Is that the Jamaican lad? Lawless.
Yeah. The Jamaican
Geordie.
It'll be always referred to now as the Jamaican Geordie, Dan Lawless from West Ham Fans TV. It was a heated debate in the correct manner. It was a really good discussion. I didn't agree with a lot of what he said about Ashby, and he just couldn't compromise whatsoever with regards to the fact that actually, because his opinion, I'll say it really briefly, in his opinion, there was confirmation, I think, from Moyes or the club that Harris and Ashby didn't want to negotiate a new deal with West Ham club. So in his mind, and he tweeted this out, that it was about money, that Ashby left because it was money. And I said, hold on, why wasn't it because he saw Newcastle being the club that's got the bigger ambition and got the bigger trajectory in their future? Why can't it be for that? And he just couldn't see it at all. He couldn't see it that it might not necessarily be just for money. And I said, it might well be for money, but it could also be for ambition. He didn't want to see that either. And he was arguing against it. And then he went on to the Gordon situation, and it was just like... But anyway, there was some things confirmed for me with regards to West Ham that he had an opinion on, which I had an opinion on, that he confirmed for me without meaning to confirm it for me. So I was quite happy with that. And I thought
I really hope he comes back on when we play them away with dreads. That would be cool. And just Jamaican Geordie accent the whole show. But
I'm sure he can definitely. The question: who will play on the left in the final? ASM, Joelinton, Isaac, as obviously Gordon cannot play. What do you think, Daz?
On the left of the attacking three against Man United, Isaac. We've got Bruno.
Bruno's back. We know Bruno's back. So it'll be Bruno in midfield with Longstaff probably.
Longstaff and Willock probably. So then Joelinton.
But this is the question: is it Willock or Joelinton? Does Joelinton play on the left of the forward three or in midfield? And then who plays on the left? Is it, like you said, you just said Isaac? But
there is a good connection with Joelinton and Joe Willock when they're playing down that left, because you don't know who's playing midfield and who's playing in the front three, because they're always swapping. And it does work for a while, and then it needs to be freshened up. Isaac off the bench, good threat. If we go behind, mix it up a bit. It's an Eddie Howe problem. We don't have to worry about that.
You are absolutely right. 100%. It is not
a problem to have.
It's not a question that I would want to answer, because it could go so many different ways. Just a comment from Charlie. Gordon looked pure quality, speed and passing, decision making is frightening. You're absolutely right. He's going to be a top player if he continues in that vein. That's without a doubt. The Dugan family made a really good point just a second ago, and I've just lost it. So I'm going to try and find it again. He's put, we've played Bournemouth twice already and failed to beat them. We only won a game with a last-minute goal. And the missed penalty versus Fulham is going to be tough. Do you agree it's going to be a tough game?
I think it is going to be a tough game. Yeah, I think it is going to be tough, because we have got a few draws with them, and they did put up a good fight away from home against Brighton at the weekend, and we know Brighton are doing well. And they brought in a few new players as well. There was one guy, I don't know what his name was, but he's busting through. from midfield as well. It's going to be tough. It's not going to. Don't think that there is no easy game in the Premier League, but don't think this is a gimme against Bournemouth. Definitely not, and especially with Bruno missing, it's going to be close.
Definitely.
Hope we win 5-0, but it's going to be close.
They don't have loads of shots on target. They don't create a load of chances. I think I've just looked at the possession stats. Obviously, it was Brighton away at the weekend. Brighton had 71 possession in the play,
Break them down.
and only broke them down late on in the game. Now Bournemouth are going to be at home. Now I'm not expecting Bournemouth to pummel our goal at all. I think we're going to control possession. But I think they're going to sit back and might make it very, very difficult to break us down, just like they did at St. James's Park. And I genuinely believe we're going to need what we got on Saturday, an early goal. Someone like Wilson or whoever to put the ball in the net in the first 5 minutes, just to settle our nerves. And ultimately, that's going to bring Bournemouth out. They're going to have to attack us, which could potentially open up the game. That's going to be the way. The longer the game goes on at 0-0, if it does go along the game at 0-0, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher. But that's going to be interesting.
They are 19th in the league as well. They're like, they have to go for it as well. It's no good them playing for a draw. As they take a draw, like what Sam did. But if we, as you said, if we go goal ahead, they will open up. Yeah. But I have a feeling it's going to be one of those games where we're just wishing the ball to go in and miss chances so close and until about the 70th minute. Definitely. Just have this feeling.
Yeah. Look, questions are done. To be fair, the interesting one from Yano. He put Almiron is not an Eddie player. Always the first player he looks to drag off. Do you agree with that?
No, because Eddie Howe said he's exactly what we're all about. He's kind of the model of player. He wants someone that's constantly pressing, constantly running. That's why we got. It seems to me why we got Gordon, because he's like that as well. He's constantly pressing, constantly running, and so to me he's definitely an Eddie Howe player. I would have thought that maybe the start of Eddie Howe's reign, because he didn't go near Miggy Almiron. But once Miggy Almiron got in the squad and he showed his pressing first, and then he started to get a few goals. So I think he's definitely an Eddie Howe player. We bring back the goals and he goes nowhere.
Definitely. No, I agree. I think he is an Eddie Howe player. I think he fits the system perfectly. But we just need to maximise getting him the opportunities to score goals. And I think at certain points in the game, playing on the right is not right for him. I think switching him over to a more natural side where he can whip the ball in is the better scenario for him long term. But let's wait and see. And look, I'll end it on this one. As Jules said, click the likes, click the thumbs up, and support the channel on your way out. Daz, that's questions done from me.
Right. Cheers, Pete. Nicely done. And well done on the chat as well, because it's difficult when there's two of us. But let's shout out to the sponsors. Shout out to the radiatorshed.com and Russ and the crew there at the Radiator Shed. And the other one is, here it is. Put us both in jail. Of course, if you need radiators or all your heating needs, you contact Russ at the radiatorshed.com. He will sort you out. And also, if you know someone's who's building a house, go get in contact with the radiatorshed.com. And if you need to get them installed, Russ is your man as well. And if just to flash back to the radiators that he has in stock, they're absolutely beautiful radiators. You need to go to the website to check out the latest, and they are working on a showroom as well, linked in with our other sponsor in the shape of H2O Bathroom Design Co. So they are working on the showroom. The last time I was talking to Russ, and the Northeast largest supplier of Velcro and Botch bathroom wear. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. Get down to the showroom on the 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate in Gateshead. And if you're wondering what the bathrooms are all about, check those out. check those babies out.
You
Some lovely bathrooms.
Just go back to that last picture. Look at that. Look at that sink. Look at the toilet. Look at the artwork, the lights, the flooring, the tile work on the walls, spotlights. It looks an absolute dream. Like,
yeah, no,
I'm looking in the next couple of years to get my bathroom done, and I'm going there, 100%.
Nice one. Yeah, well, the lads will sort you out. Martin in H2O bathroom design, and Russ in the Radio Shed. Great lads, and they will sort you out. That's it from the sponsors. We will have shows coming up. I know we'll have an away days. We'll have a reaction show. Not sure what else we'll have. We haven't even got a chance to talk about these things. Pete, we kind of took a bit of a mini kind of break away from. We needed that all those transfer shows and Match Day Live and stuff like that. So we'll get back in the swing of things as well. Loads coming as always. Loads of things that we have in the pipeline that we didn't get to put on during the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, but we can mix it up and put a different spin on it and get it out there over the next couple of weeks. But that is it. Thanks everyone for sticking with us throughout the show. Thanks for getting your great comments and questions coming in as well. Great analysis from Pete on ASM. So give him a break. Give him a break. Let's give him another chance or two. He needs a few games, but stick with him, and we'll see how we get on. How'd you like that? See you later.
Drink it.